Good afternoon, Flame. Wednesday has turned out to be a dark, wet and dreary day. But a little bit of sunlight for you this afternoon. It's Wednesday Webcast. And you've got me. Yay. Okay, I'm going to keep this short and I'm going to keep it sweet. Only because you've already listened to me for probably 40 minutes on Sunday go on about this book of Acts. We've started this new season of teaching on the book of Acts. And guys, I've answered or tried to answer or give you some answers to the question, who wrote that book? Well, it was a guy called Luke. He was a physician, a doctor, and he was a Gentile. What's in that book? Well, it's a historical account of the early church and specifically of two main characters. One being Peter and his ministry to the Jews, and one being Paul and his ministry to the Gentiles predominantly. Also, I've tried to then answer the why. Why was the book written? Well, it was to make sure that there was a factual, accurate account of the early church and of Paul and Peter and the apostles and of what Jesus set in motion when he died on the cross, when he was raised from the dead, and when he poured out his Spirit upon his apostles, giving them the command to go into the nations, to go and be his witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And then giving them the ability, giving them what they need to be able to do that, the Holy Spirit, power being poured on them from on high. And as I've kind of thought over those few passages, I don't want to talk too much on it if I'm honest, because Pete Wass is doing next Sunday's sermon, and I'm sure he's going to expand on that. He's going to be dealing with chapter 1 to chapter 7, so that section in the book around Jerusalem and what was preached in Jerusalem, the things that were going on, and the very beginnings of the church. But the thing that sticks out to me throughout the whole book of Acts is the fact that this is a book for everyone. Don't get into that mistake of thinking you need to be a Paul or you need to be a Peter or a Stephen or a Philip. You don't need to be any of those people. You see, when the Holy Spirit was poured out at the day of Pentecost, at the very beginning of the book of Acts, this is what Peter said. He said, "But this is what was uttered through the prophet Joel. And in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even on my male servants and female servants. In those days I will pour out my Spirit, and they shall prophesy." You see, this blessing of the Holy Spirit, this pouring out of power, was for everyone. For male and female, for rich and for poor. Whether you were a servant, whether you were a free man, it's for you. So don't get into that kind of place of thinking you need to be a Paul. You need to be out there preaching the gospel. Yes, we need to all be witnesses for Jesus, but not all of us are evangelists. Not all of us are teachers, but we all need to be witnesses. Not all of us are pastors, but we all need to be witnesses. And Jesus has given you everything you need to be the witness that he's called you to be. You see, he's poured out his Spirit on all flesh. That power, that gift of power from on high is the Holy Spirit living within you, working through you, working around you. You don't need to be a Paul. You don't need to be a Peter. You need to be you. But you need to be a you that's filled with the Holy Spirit. And that's what this book is about, the works of the Holy Spirit through his apostles in the early church. You see, Jesus said, "I will build my church. I will call all men to myself." Our job is to take him into our world, into our communities, into our families, into our situations, so that he can call all men to himself, so that he can build his church through the power of the Holy Spirit working through his apostles, his disciples, his evangelists, his teachers, his pastors, his prophets, through his church, his body, that one body, many parts. You see, when Paul went out with his traveling companions, those that would preach the gospel with him, those that would pray with him, those that would debate with the Jews with him, those that would heal the sick with him, those that would cleanse the lepers with him, that would cast out the demons, that would raise the dead. When he went out with those traveling companions and he allowed Holy Spirit to do what Holy Spirit wanted to do through them, yes, he may be the person that is written about in the book of Acts, but we hear those tales of Apollos. We hear the tales of Philip. We hear the tales of Barnabas. We hear those murmurings in the background that those guys went out and did things as well. Why? Because Holy Spirit was poured upon them as well. This isn't a gift for the elite. This was a gift for all of God's people. And the mission is the same for all of God's people, to be his witnesses, be that in lifestyle, be that in speech, but to be his witnesses to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. That was his great commission, to go make disciples of the nations. Even those people that couldn't travel with Paul, Paul would go back to those churches, to the church in Antioch, for example, and he would tell them everything that's happened as him and his traveling companions have gone out and preached the gospel, and everything that God's done through them in the Gentile world. And he would connect the church in Antioch with that ministry, with those miraculous signs, with that growth, with the preaching of the gospel. He would connect them. He'd come back, he'd feed back, and they would input into that. They were praying for him. They were praying for Luke. They were praying for Silas. They were praying for Barnabas and Apollos. They were praying. They were supporting them in prayer. Not only that, but they supported them financially. They gave gifts to them. They helped them look after the needy and the sick. How? They gave gifts to the apostles, to Paul and his companions, so that they could go and they could give those gifts to the local church, and they could then give food to those that needed it. Do not get into that place in your mind where you think you need to be a Christian superstar. To see the things that happened in the book of Acts happen in your life, you don't need to be that person. You just need to be you, with a heart that's willing. You see, Jesus uses those that are willing. Anybody that's willing. Jesus said, or should I say, the Bible tells us through the prophet Joel and through Peter, that in the last days God declares that he will pour out his Spirit on all flesh. That all includes you and me. That all includes Peter, Paul and me. That all includes the two Peters and me. It includes all of us at the Flame. God's Spirit has been poured out on all of us, that we may be his witnesses. So guys, get into this book of Acts. Let it change your thinking. Let it just change your heart, really. Let it set you ablaze. You have a mission, and that mission is to be a witness in acts and in also words. But you've got a mission to be a witness for Jesus. Not only that, but you've been given everything you need in the Holy Spirit to be able to be that witness. To be able to preach the gospel, be able to live it out in your workplaces or in your home, to be able to place your hands on the sick and heal them. That's what the promise is. That's what this book of Acts is. It's all about Holy Spirit working through us, ordinary men and women. Guys, let this book ignite you and ignite a passion in your heart that you jump into this harvest field and you get on with the mission that God has given us here at the Flame, to see the lost saved, to see lives transformed, to see his name declared and proclaimed in this little area of Blackheath, Rowley Regis. Guys, I cannot encourage you enough. Get into this book of Acts. Let it ignite your passion for Jesus and for his work. What can I say? I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to go on too much, and I probably have already gone on too much because I'm excited. I'm excited about this book. I'm excited about Jesus in this book. I really am. But moving swiftly on, because I'm carrying on. Tuesdays, we had a good night last night. We had several people come and just use the space for individual prayer. Guys, I just want to encourage you. The church is open at 7:30 for an hour or so. For anybody who wants to come and sit and just be in God's presence and pray. It's a time of individual prayer and reflection. It's a time to be able to pray for your family members when there's nobody else around listening. There's nobody else around trying to lead and direct how you pray. It's just a space where you can come and get a moment's peace and quiet, a moment's silence to just be with God and to listen to him and to speak to him and pray to him. So guys, Tuesday, 7:30. It was a good time last night. Several people turned up, which was really good to see the church being used. It's open. Please use it. We've got LifeLink tomorrow, and guys, the link will be going out to your emails, so please be looking for that. LifeLink at 7:15 tomorrow night. Be great to see you there. I know that some people can't make it. Guys, just know that if you're not there and you can't make it, you are not forgotten. We miss you, and we cannot wait until we can get together again and we can all be in the building together and actually fellowship together, not through a screen. So guys, you are missed, and we are praying for you, and we will continue to try and connect with you through phone calls, emails, Facebook messages, and all that kind of stuff. If you need anything, please shout up. Please get in contact with us. We don't want anybody to feel that they've been left behind, because nobody has. You are all on our thoughts, all in our prayers. So guys, that's LifeLink tomorrow, 7:15. So be there or be square. Yeah, that was just weird. That was just strange. We'll leave it there. Guys, take care and God bless.